Hello and welcome on Thomas Geiger Cars. Today with one of the most anticipated electric vehicles of the season, the Volkswagen ID. Bus. Almost 5 years after the debut of the design show car, we're standing here at the almost production-ready vehicle that will come to the market later that year. Just a few days before the world premiere in March, we're here in windy Hamburg and driving the prototype for the very first time. If you want to know what to expect from that vehicle, join me on my first test drive and I'll tell you more about it. Since we're still sitting in a prototype, the interior is still camouflaged and we can't see much of the production car. But you don't have to have much fantasy to imagine what to see. It will not be as fancy as in the show car, but on the other hand, it will be much more versatile than the design model. We have lots of storage compartments around, and we have the common MEB architecture also for the infotainment system. Means a big touchscreen here, a small screen behind the steering wheel, and something new, the gear lever now is mounted like the indicator stick, not attached to the display, but on the place you used to for indicating and initiating the wipers. Totally different than in any other MEB model is the seating position. That is pure Volkswagen bus feeling. You're sitting higher, you're having a command position, and you have a perfect view of the seat. The only difference to the actual Volkswagen bus with the combustion engine is the big distance between the dashboard and the windscreen. That is used because somewhere the engineers had to put the technology and they had to save room for the augmented reality head-up display that will be available for the vehicle as well. Since the ID. Bus is using the MEB architecture, the drivetrain is well known from ID.3 up to ID.5. We have two battery sizes at the start. There is a net capacity of almost 80 kilowatt hours, giving you a range of more than 400 kilometers. And later during the life cycle, there will be a pure model with a lower entry price and a smaller battery of about 50 kilowatt hours net capacity, giving you almost 300 kilometers of range. For the start, there will be a rear motor like in the traditional Volkswagen Transporter, just an electric one, this time with 150 kilowatts or 204 horsepower. Later on, there will be an all-wheel drive version with a second motor in the front and almost 300 kilowatts of power, translating to almost 400 horsepower. But no matter what power you have, top speed is pretty limited. 145 kilometers per hour is the maximum that you can achieve. Otherwise, the range will melt down like a cup of ice cream in the summer. Yes, the ID. Bus is around for almost 5 years now, and some people think it should have come earlier. But if you look at the competition, it is still a unique and a very early car, because all the other cars are just conversions. Petrol and diesel platforms converted to an electric vehicle. The ID. Bus, based on the MEB, is the first dedicated electric people mover, not to compare with Opel Zafira, with even the Mercedes EQV, which is also based on a petrol and diesel model. And it's not only meant as a people mover, it's also for goods and workers, because as the first dedicated EV commercial vehicle in Europe, it will also come as an ID. Cargo for crafters and businessmen and parcel carriers like UPS, Amazon and Co. Driving an electric vehicle of that size does not only mean you enjoy the silence and you have a good feeling against the environment. No, you also have the benefit of the platform and an extremely small turning circle. While it's pretty hard to maneuver a traditional Volkswagen bus due to its size, especially in a dense city and on a small parking lot, it's damn easy with the ID. Bus. Even for its almost 5 meters in length, it has a turning circle of just 11 meters. That is pretty much the same as in a Volkswagen Golf, for example. Usually the design models are way ahead of their time and the production model is pretty disappointing. In this case, Volkswagen has taken over lots of the clues of the show car and incorporated lots of the beloved details of the original Bulli that is around since more than 70 years. The best example is the huge Volkswagen logo that we don't see at any other cars, but that is a typical reminder to the first generation Volkswagen bus. Technology of the ID bus is the MEB family, same as ID3, ID4 and ID5. That means battery in the floor, large wheelbase, short overhangs. The vehicle is 4.70 meters in length. That's about 20 centimeters shorter than the actual multivan that was launched last year. But the wheelbase is 3 meters, so almost exactly the same size. That means you have a compact car with a huge interior. Sliding doors, as you know it from the multivan, and lots of room even in the second row. There's so much room that I can even move my seat to the front, to the back, and adjust the space for my legs or the space for my luggage. The luggage space in this vehicle is so huge that Volkswagen is also building a cargo version, and there is an even bigger ID bus in the making. 25 centimeters more wheelbase means enough room for a third row seating or even bigger cargo space. Thanks for joining me on that first test drive with the new ID bus. Even if it's still a prototype, it is already a very promising experience. And I'm pretty convinced that this vehicle will rock the market for the EVs. Not so much because of its pricing, because 63,000 euro as a starting price in Germany and 55,000 euros for the entry model later on is not really competitive. But since the car is unique and the ethos of the legendary Bulli, the Volkswagen Transporter, is still there, this car gives you much more than money can buy.